As if Captain Marvel wasn't enough, here we are 4 years later with its sequel, so I think it's glaringly obvious how this is gonna go. We begin with what we'd hope is a breath of fresh air compared to our recent Marvel villains. Instead, we have the hammer-wielding clown, shoulder-padded cringe lord, Dar-Ben, who we find digging up the exact same magical bullshit bangle worn by Ms. Marvel because apparently they were forged as a pair, and yet somehow one ended up on some moon and the other sent in the mail. Realising the other bangle is missing, we then cut across to Kamala Khan's bedroom, and the correct response from most people is, "Who the fuck's that?" And that's because nobody wasted their time watching the Disney Plus series, because why would you? You wouldn't have to anyway, because like all the other shows that supposedly tie into the Marvels, in typical Marvel fashion, they don't. The only thing of note for the moment is that Captain Marvel is Kamala's favourite superhero and idol for some unknown alien reason. It's especially strange considering Captain Marvel, aside from being an unlikable fucking idiot, has barely been around. In the 2019 film, Captain Marvel's existence is kept secret. In Avengers Endgame, she spent barely any time on Earth aside from the final battle, so how anybody knows who she is based on those appearances, I really don't know. But that's what the film desperately wants us to believe, and why we have Kamala writing Twilight-type fanfiction fantasizing about Captain Marvel.
I'm going to jump! No! Do a flip!
But before she knows it, her bangle begins to glow, she disappears, and we cut to earlier that day. Only to be unfortunately reacquainted with Carol Danvers. You remember her? No? No you don't, and Marvel knows you don't. Mainly due to the plank-like acting and little to no characterization, aside from being told from someone else the obvious fact that she's awesome. Which is why we're reminded with epileptic flashbacks of the first film. She's then contacted by Fury from the Saber space station. Not the cool Fury or the old Adam wants to kill himself Fury. This time we've got Goofy Fury, whose only job in the film is to babysit cats. His current job on Saber is overseeing the jump point system because, yes, the jump points introduced in Guardians, a network of wormholes used for travelling the galaxy, which is the only explanation we needed, is now going to be explained by a bunch of dumb fucks lacking in any logical sense whatsoever. He tells Carol the entire network was brought down due to a surge in the jump point system, and the source of the issue which he wants Carol to track down is on a moon named MB418. Fury also mentions that Monica will send more intel. So once again, for people that haven't seen WandaVision or don't remember Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau is Carol's best friend's daughter who in WandaVision got vague superpowers and was responsible for Wanda's escape from consequences, who then went on to do, well, this. We then cut over to Monica, who after making repairs to the Saber space station notices a jump point still open, so decides to float over to it and get some readings. Reporting back to Fury that the jump point is leaking energy, which is the exact same as what Carol finds on MB418. Then stupidly, they both decide to touch the jump point's leaking mysterious purple energy when they don't know what the fuck it is or what it would do to them. This kind of nitwit thinking is what I would expect of Captain Marvel, but considering how intelligent of a scientist Monica is, why would she not just use a probe to get readings? Why of all things would you go and touch the fucking thing? Well, that's obvious, because we have to start the story Marvel wants to tell that expectedly has to rely on two of our main characters being utterly retarded, even though the film wants us to consider them smart. But this is what caused Kamala's disappearance, and so begins the three of our main characters switching places. With Captain Marvel ending up in Kamala's bedroom, Monica on MB418, and Kamala in space. We're later told what the rules are, rules they constantly break, so to avoid having the same criticism every 5 minutes, I'll just explain it now and then we can swiftly move on. When at least two of our heroes use their powers at the same time, the two that use their powers switch places, into the same position and moving in the same motion the other was. These are rules applied without any consistency, it's only used dependent on whether it's convenient or inconvenient for where the writers want to go next. Either a switch will take place when it shouldn't, or a switch won't take place when it should. Or a switch will occur with one character moving one way, and when they switch, they don't stay within the motion the other was. Even after spending time time establishing how these rules work, they constantly contradict it. Because it's a garbled fucking mess of an idea that shouldn't be taken on by untalented writers, but this is unfortunately what we've been lumbered with. Eventually, they all revert back to their original positions, where Carol runs into a Kree soldier who just tells her where the next scene is. Because of course, if it wasn't for this fucking idiot, Carol would have no leads. What makes it worse is the Kree soldier isn't even threatened, he just gives over the information willingly because Carol said, "Where's Dar-Ben?" Only to be replied with, "The Supreme Leader is already on Tarnax, you can't stop this." Well, now she can, you just told her the exact location when you had no reason to. But with Carol being handed her next scene, she contacts Fury telling him that the Kree are going after the Skrulls on Tarnax. To which Fury reminds her not to go in swinging because it's peacetime between the Kree and Skrulls. And he has good reason to remind her of that because she's a clueless fucking idiot who just runs into any situation without a single thought of the repercussions, which only gets worse. Carol arrives on Tarnax and boards a Kree ship within the planet's atmosphere. We then cut down to the planet where Dar-Ben is in negotiations with the Skrulls and going back on certain agreements. We're then offered up some exposition about the current situation of the Kree in their home planet, Hala. Dar-Ben says when her predecessor was destroyed, heretics rose up to fill the void. The Civil War polluted the skies, her people can't breathe, their sun is dying, and that Hala is out of time. I'm not sure exactly how a civil war causes your sun to die, but I'm sure it'll be explained by the end of the movie, at least you would hope. She goes on to tell the Skrulls that she hopes they can rebuild together and put their ancient animosity behind them, and will even aid them in their relocation. This of course leaves the Skrulls confused with what she means by relocation, considering this planet is the home of their colony. Well, dear viewer, that's because, as our villain is about to tell us, she intends to steal the atmosphere. We have actually reached levels where the MCU has become a parody of a parody, and a bad parody at that. I don't even know how the fuck she's even able to do that. It'd be perfectly fine if, for instance, they had an explanation for how this works, but they don't even try. Dar-Ben can just steal the fucking air from one planet and pump it into Hala. She does this by opening new jump points between Hala and Tarnax, and it just works. The air is just sucked through. I honestly don't even know what the fuck I'm watching anymore, and that feeling only continues. As we now enter into a long migraine-inducing sequence of Carol, Monica and Kamala switching places. Locations of which include Kamala's living room, the Kree ship on Tarnax, and the Saber space lift. In the case of Kamala's living room, we have two obviously shit Kree soldiers transported there from Tarnax after being eaten by a Flerken, because apparently you're transported to another dimension until the Flerken decides to spit you back out. The Flerken makes it to Earth because when our main characters switch, whatever they're holding on to will transport with them. So that's how we end up with Kree in the living room, who go through phases of fights with each character, not to mention Kamala's family. For whatever reason, the Kree soldiers struggle just to beat regular fucking people. They even find themselves being beaten with a mop, and no, I'm not kidding, that literally happens. Which makes no sense considering Kree have a lot more strength than humans do, but what the fuck, we're having fun. We then come to the Saber space lift where Carol's having a conversation with Fury on his way back down to Earth, telling him the Kree must have rigged the jump point and she touched it because it was glowy and mysterious. The writers seem to think by pointing out how something doesn't make sense or being self-aware that it doesn't make sense somehow fixes it. It doesn't. Your entire film hinges on your main characters you want us to believe are intelligent doing something utterly stupid. The problem doesn't go away because you pathetically pointed it out. Eventually, Carol switches with Kamala, who brings back Kree soldiers from Tarnax onto the space lift. So we get to see Nick Fury cowering like the bitch that he now is. Until finally, everyone reverts to their original positions, easing the concerns of an aneurysm. Meeting at Kamala's house, Monica comes to the conclusion that the reason why the three of them are switching is because they each have light-based powers that are now entangled after, like babies to a plug socket, decided to touch an unstable jump point. She then goes on to explain what each of their powers are, which is still kept vague, meaning their powers are whatever the fuck the plot requires. You can't actually pin it down. She says Captain Marvel can absorb light, even though Monica literally does that at the end of the movie, and according to Monica, her powers is that she can see light. I still don't know what the fuck that means, because we all see light. She later gives further context to it, saying she can manipulate and see all wavelengths on the electromagnetic spectrum, which is still just incredibly vague. We're then told Kamala can turn light into physical matter, and because dumbass Monica didn't think to mention, oh, by the way, don't use your powers because you may switch places with Carol, who's currently off-world, something that should have been stated instantly. In an attempt to impress Monica with what she can do, Kamala uses her powers and then switches with Carol. And it takes her and Monica way too long to realise that wherever Carol was is now where Kamala is, aboard the Kree ship on Tarnax. So finally realising the danger Kamala could be in, Carol starts using her powers in an attempt to switch back, which doesn't work. So she decides to, and you may already see the problem with this, she tries to fly back to Tarnax.
Stupid bitch doesn't even know.
You've experienced and been explained to what's happening to you, so why in the fuck would you fly off, knowing at any moment Kamala could switch with you? Someone who can't fly, meaning if you happen to switch mid-air, she falls to her death. Or if you make it into the vacuum of space, she suffocates. All because shit for brains can't think before she acts and consider the possibilities. She only attempted to use her powers from the ground for about 10 seconds, and then she's straight to, guess I'll fly back then, to a planet that's light years away, which only increases the chances of Kamala dying in the vacuum of space. And this utter stupidity only seems to be in service to a fake sense of tension when you can do that by not completely obliterating your character's intelligence. Because as expected, just before Carol was able to reach the outer atmosphere, a switch occurs. A few seconds later and she'd definitely be dead. But instead, Kamala plummets to Earth only to be saved by Monica, who just learned how to fly this very minute. She couldn't do it before until Fury said, "You gotta fly," and black girl magic. That apparently unlocked the power of flight. It's incredibly lucky that after pleading to Fury she doesn't know how to fly yet, right when she needs to fly, it just works. Then on top of that, when she reaches Kamala, she then loses the ability to fly on the way down. So now they're both plummeting to the ground, only to be saved from certain death at the last possible second after switching with Carol. The past 5 minutes all caused by relying on your main characters making stupid decisions, the exact types of decisions like touching a fucking jump point, leaking mysterious energy. Maybe it's just too much to ask to have somewhat competent characters. Instead, that's been sacrificed on the altar of the writer's laziness. Both Monica and Kamala are now aboard the Kree ship, finding themselves cornered by Dar-Ben, who after speaking to her second-in-command is worried upon finding out Monica and Kamala are associates of Captain Marvel that she could be meddling. Dar-Ben then goes to strike down Monica and Kamala with Ronan's destroyed hammer that glows purple for some reason, even though Ronan's hammer was destroyed, and the only reason it shone purple was due to the Infinity Stone that Dar-Ben doesn't have. Either it's stylistic or the writers didn't watch past MCU material, which is an expectation these days. Right as Dar-Ben is about to come to blows with Monica and Kamala, Carol, of course, shows up at the last possible second. This is when at least the audience is made aware that when a blast of energy from Captain Marvel hits the bangle now around Dar-Ben's wrist, it becomes more powerful. And even when Carol finally realises this is the case, she still continues to aim at the bangle rather than just stick with hefty punches or even just, I don't know, aim your blasts anywhere else but the wrist area. It should also be worth mentioning that Captain Marvel should already be able to wipe the floor with Dar-Ben, considering she's nothing more than Kree. Yet we're expected to pretend like it's a struggle for Carol to overcome when it literally isn't. She's leagues more powerful than Dar-Ben. I mean, we've seen her do this in Endgame. But no, now she has trouble with someone that is, in terms of strength, slightly above human. The reason for this inconsistency is obviously due to the fact we've still got another hour to go, which isn't a good excuse, and begs the question, why you didn't just give Captain Marvel a more challenging adversary. Dar-Ben then jumps from the ship, which brings the fight to a halt even when there's nothing stopping Carol from just continuing the fight. Instead, we need to let her give a speech about the Skrulls being traitors while Carol just stands there, plank-like. So there's nothing stopping Dar-Ben from doing what she came to do, which, as we found out earlier, entailed sucking the air away because with each MCU project that comes out, they have to out-stupid each other. We went from a man goes on an arc of redemption after realising his company has been corrupted, and we're now a woman sucks the air from one planet to another for a fucking wormhole.
This has got to be a dream. Nothing this bad could ever happen in reality.
We're then left with a mass panic and Carol realising they have to evacuate the Skrulls onto the ship. And before she goes flying off to save the Skrulls further away, she tells Kamala to stay with the ship where Monica is doing fuck all to help anyone. And as expected, Kamala uses her powers to help people anyway, because I mean, that's what she would do. I don't know why Carol would think she'd listen. Eventually, they run out of time to save everyone, even though Captain Marvel can fly at light speed, so she should really have no problem. But it's left up to Kamala, who continues to help to the displeasure of Carol, who uses her powers to get Kamala back to the ship, going on to tell her that they have to save who they can. So for a split second, you think, oh, Kamala's arc they're going for in the film will be realising Captain Marvel or Idol may not be as perfect as she expected. Maybe there's more to being a superhero. Maybe you can't save everyone no matter how much you want to. This could be something interesting to develop over the rest of the film, but no. It's briefly brought up within this scene and it never comes up again. They just move on like they didn't just set something up they could build further and pay off by the end of the film. Instead, any type of theme or point they want to make is quickly swept under the rug. But now aboard the ship with the Skrulls and their leader, angered by Captain Marvel's presence, killing any peace treaty with the Kree, a peace treaty which Carol calls a ruse.
A ruse? Bring, bring. Hello? Hi, it's the 1930s. Can we have our words and clothes and shitty airplane back?
If it was a ruse, I don't really understand why Dar-Benn sat down with the Skrulls to tell them what she was gonna do. And even offer to relocate them, why wouldn't she just do it? Although I don't really understand why she had to strip the atmosphere from this planet instead of all the other planets she could have chose, aside from the fact that Dar-Benn is just really fucking stupid, which will become apparent soon enough. Carol then mentions she's called a friend from Earth who can offer the Skrulls refuge, and that friend turns out to be Valkyrie, because they're definitely friends. They've had a conversation before, or at least you would think that based on the hug they have and how they talk to each other. But no, we've never seen these two interact before. Valkyrie still imparts some wisdom, if you can really call it that. I call it fucking obvious, that Carol can stand tall without being alone. Because another angle they're trying to go with this film is that it's all about teamwork, which again is so thin, it's almost non-existent. If they really wanted to go that route of Captain Marvel learning to work as a team, why have we not seen any real resistance to the idea on Captain Marvel's part? Again, they don't give any of these ideas any proper focus, it's just brief moments that eventually, or rather quickly, disappear. We then arrive on the Kree planet Hala, where due to Dar-Benn stripping the atmosphere from Tarnax, the people can now breathe unpolluted air. But it hasn't changed the fact that their sun is pretty much dead with how dark the planet is, all their oceans have gone somehow. And the first thing that comes to mind is how exactly is everyone not just dead, considering if your sun, which provides heat to the planet, is dying, then that would mean your temperatures have dropped so cold that no life could possibly survive. Your oceans have also completely dried up, which doesn't make a lot of sense when your sun is dying at the same time, not to mention that if your oceans are gone, that means resources like seafood is gone, and I assume if the oceans are gone, you have no drinking water either. Although your civilization is capable of interstellar travel, which I suppose you could get resources elsewhere. So then I guess my question then becomes, why the fuck are you still here? Why haven't you just moved to a different planet? Why have you instead went, no, we've got to steal an atmosphere, an ocean, and a sun? Because that's a lot of trouble to go to just to avoid moving planets. And even if you're so desperate to rejuvenate the planet, why have you not at the very least moved off the fucking planet until it's restored? You have interstellar travel. What makes this worse is we're later told that the Kree colonised 25% of the galaxy, so why not just live on one of those, or like I said, until your planet is restored to its former self? What exactly is so important about this planet aside from being sentimental? It's utterly destroyed to the point that you should already be dead. The planet is inhospitable to any life. We then find out how all of this came to be, which, if I'm being honest, is the funniest part of the film. Captain Marvel decided 30 years ago, so a short time after the events of the 2019 film, to fly back to Hala and destroy the Supreme Intelligence, an AI that ruled over the Kree. Captain Marvel believed if she were to destroy it, that would then liberate the Kree and stop any ongoing wars. Little did she know, because she consistently doesn't think about the consequences because she's an incompetent fucking idiot. By destroying the Supreme Intelligence meant there was no leader and the Kree went into a civil war which decimated the ecosystem, which doesn't make any sense when considering all of this happened within the span of 30 years. How the fuck does a sun die in 30 years, or oceans dry up, or an entire planet polluted? Well, there's no explanation like most things throughout this film, so fuck knows. The only thing we do know is all of the events that transpired were all because of Captain Marvel. She destroyed the Supreme Intelligence, which then somehow caused all of this death and destruction. When we met Captain Marvel in 2019, she had lived on this planet for years, meaning she should know exactly how the fuck it operates. She should know what the Supreme Intelligence provides, and if it were destroyed, what it would do to the people. But no, this dumb fucking idiot never sat down and thought about anything. She went through no thinking process. She just went in and thought, the way to solve any problem is you just punch it. Not realising it's more complex than that when she should, considering it was once where she called home. So Carol has the blood of billions on her hands because she didn't think and clearly hasn't done anything to make up for it. They somehow found a way to assassinate her character, the very little that she had. And you may think, oh well, she's going to be held accountable for this. Once again, no. Instead, she's going to get away with it scot-free, and even when Monica and Kamala find out, they don't bat an eyelid. Nobody seems to care except for the Kree, but Carol herself faces no real consequence. It's all just fine. What makes it more frustrating is there's ideas they could have worked with that would make for an interesting film. You have the idea that Captain Marvel has a serious fuck-up and she has to redeem herself, although maybe stay away from she caused a genocide and just bring it back to a more normal level. Because if you go as far as the genocide of a planet like you have here, how can you expect an audience to care or like her, especially when they already don't? Then you can bring in the aspect of Kamala putting Carol on a pedestal and then realising she isn't quite what she thought she was, and then learning from those mistakes. There's plenty of ideas here that could make for a good movie, and you went with Captain Marvel commits genocide because she's retarded. Dar-Ben finishes up her speech and we find out another intention she has is to reignite the sun. Only to be told by her second-in-command she needs more power than the bangle can provide due to the energy of the sun that he warns would kill her. Dar-Ben seems fine with giving up her life to secure Hala's future, although your actions eventually say another. She's then told they'll be able to find the other bangle in time, that of course being Kamala's, that they don't know about yet and seem to have no way of finding. Which only opens up more questions about how you found the first bangle on MB418 in the first place. If you found that, then why can't you find the other one? It's very lucky that Kamala just so happens to be in Carol's company, otherwise you'd have no chance of finding it. We then return to the genocidal maniac Captain Marvel on the ship for some drama with Monica, because Monica brings nothing to the film except every now and again bringing up the fact that Carol never came back to see her after she left in the 2019 film. That's the only real drama in the film and there's no resolution from it, it's just something that comes up, and then in the next scene, all is forgiven. The only effect it really has is making Carol look worse, which compared to the genocide is like she forgot to brush her teeth. But this is what Monica is rightfully upset about because her mum died and Carol never came back. She was even on Earth in Endgame and never bothered to visit her. She can also travel at the speed of light, so there's really no excuse except the one she gives that people needed her, which still doesn't sit well with Monica. We get more excuses later, but for now, well, all is forgiven. Almost as if this is just some drama to make it seem like this film isn't completely dead inside. Kamala then tells them she thinks she knows how Dar-Ben is opening up new jump points, bringing up the fact that Dar-Ben has a bangle just like hers and that when she opened the first jump point, the bangle started glowing. A confused Carol says what she's describing is a quantum band, and that quantum bands were supposed to be a myth, and that if the Kree legends are true, the two quantum bands were used to create a teleportation network, meaning every jump point in the universe. We could have just left it at jump points just being a means of interstellar travel. Instead, we're now told that some guy with magical quantum bands that he got from somewhere went around the entire universe making millions or billions of wormholes. They then come to the conclusion that's the reason for their entanglement. Light powers don't seem to have anything to do with it. We can assume the reason Monica and Carol were entangled was due to them coming into contact with a jump point at the same time. When it comes to Kamala's involvement, then we have to assume it's because of the quantum band. Which then creates the question of why isn't Dar-Ben also entangled? Because that's what should happen based on the requirements of the quantum bands being connected to the creation of the jump points, which, as they said, is a teleportation network. But that doesn't seem to happen because nothing makes sense. We're just left with all these unanswered questions, a sign that your film is completely broken. They then wonder why, if Dar-Ben only has one quantum band, how is she able to open up jump points? Only to be told that she's using her what they call universal hammer, meaning it does whatever the fuck we need it to, including forcing unstable jump points into the grid. Even though if these quantum bands are ancient artifacts used to create jump points, and let us not forget that you need 2 quantum bands to be able to do this, how and why would Dar-Ben's weapon be a substitute for a second quantum band? What exactly does a hammer have in common with a magical band? Absolutely fuck all. The next question they need to answer is where Dar-Ben's going next. Luckily, Kamala remembers star maps from when she was on the Kree ship. This is when the scroll memory device comes in handy, giving them their next destination in the Magellanic Galaxy. The question is, what planet? Which is a hard question to answer when it's a different galaxy with countless fucking planets, so it could be anywhere. Seems like the end of the road to me. Might as well pack up and go home because there's no way of figuring this out. Oh wait, no, they're just going to conclude where Dar-Ben is going when there's millions or billions of planets. But first we have to get through another 5 minutes of exposition about things we already know. So we're once again told what the jump point system is from Monica, who then, like she does the majority of this film, pull things out of her asshole. Monica says they need to stop Dar-Ben before she opens up more jump points, because apparently this network of jump points is like fracking. That when she opens more wormholes, the more destabilized it becomes, and then earthquake. These are just conclusions she comes to based on nothing, considering the jump points were created before humans even existed by somebody. There's already billions of jump points, so how would opening up a couple more destabilize it? Surely it would be because the new jump points Dar-Ben is creating are unstable, so that's what would bring it down. But no, they've went with it's like fracking when it isn't anything like that. And finally, they come to the question of what Dar-Ben wants. A question they would already have answered if they had the common sense to question the scroll leader that was literally on their fucking ship. What his conversation with Dar-Ben entailed. And to make matters worse, it takes Carol ages to realise that if Dar-Ben stripped the atmosphere from Tarnax, then she obviously did it for the reason of her planet's air being barely breathable. How can Carol not realise this straight away when she's the one that caused it? All the breadcrumbs are there. The line of thinking should be straight from she stripped the atmosphere because Hala has no atmosphere, Hala also has no oceans and their sun is dying, so Dar-Ben is clearly after water and a way to reignite the sun. It should be obvious. Then of course comes the big question of what planet within another fucking galaxy has water. The assumption would be countless. But no, yet again it's as simple as she'll get it from Aladna, a planet which Carol says is 99% ocean. Which is a strange conclusion. First of all, there being countless water planets in the Magellanic Galaxy. Second of all, why would Dar-Ben go to a planet to get water that, as we find out, Carol has a connection to? If Dar-Ben is so desperate to fix her homeworld for the Kree, why would she take the risk of Carol turning up and stopping her when there's endless possibilities to get the water you need from another planet? Unless Dar-Ben is such a stupid fucking moron that she would risk the existence of her people that she's willing to die for by going to a planet that Carol cares about to steal their resources simply because she wants revenge against Carol, something I'm sure we'll come back to if it turns out to be true. For now, our team of farts in the wind plan to separate Dar-Ben from the quantum band on Aladna. But first, Kamala has to get permission from her parents to go with Carol on this highly dangerous mission that no 16-year-old has any business to go on. The reason why Carol wants to take Kamala on this mission is of course because she's worried about switching, which is less of a problem if Kamala is close by. Even though it's not, is it? All you have to do is send Kamala home and tell her not to use her powers. This is something you should do, especially when you now know that Dar-Ben is looking for the quantum band that she doesn't know you have. There's no reason for Kamala to go along, all she's going to do is get in the way by using her powers and all of you switching. Not to mention, she's only 16, and we already have an example in Infinity War where Peter tried to go on the spaceship with Tony, only for Tony to send him back because Peter is still a kid, it's a dangerous mission, and Tony feels responsible for him. The only reason Peter became part of the mission is because he's stowed away without Tony's knowledge. So the same should apply here. Kamala is 16, it's a dangerous mission, and you've written it so they have a choice to send her home. Which only makes sense when your villain is after what Kamala has and doesn't know it. But instead they act as though they don't have a choice when they do, and if they actually cared about Kamala, they would make the choice to send her home. It doesn't only keep Kamala safe, it makes their job a whole lot easier without having to worry about her, and not suddenly switch places at an inconvenient moment. But no, they have no choice apparently. We finally make it to Aladna, where we're then greeted by song and dance. That's right, we're at the musical number of the film, and not only is it embarrassing, but it's fucking cringe. And as it turns out, it's how this particular culture communicates, through song and apparently dance, which must be fucking exhausting. They also can't understand anyone who simply talks, even though they still speak fucking English. What makes it worse is there's no commitment to this because the prince they're here to see is bilingual anyway. So they could have just went straight to him and warned him of Dar-Ben and quickly got prepared. Instead, our three heroes on a dangerous mission throw all urgency out the window and any consistent tone they had, with slow walks, smiles and laughter, when Dar-Ben is on the way, and if you fuck this up it'll result in yet another genocide, one of which Carol was already the reason for. So instead of this literal song and dance which Carol takes part in when she meets with the prince, just tell him what the fuck is going on and talk like a normal person because it's fucking quicker. They finally ask the prince to get them battle ready, gifting them with 3 new superhero suits, which are no different than the suits they already had. Because I guess Marvel was thinking about more merchandise for 3 characters nobody gives a shit about.
Not a great plan.
With the Kree ship arriving and the battle about to begin, Carol's plan is to keep any unintentional switching to a minimum. Or better yet, you could just go yourself and defeat Dar-Ben because you have that kind of power. But no, instead we're gonna have to watch the superhero that people boast about online being the most powerful Avenger struggle to beat someone that's so much more weaker. But rather than take my advice, her and Monica's plan is to get the jump on Dar-Ben and leave Kamala, a 16-year-old that Carol promised she'd take care of, on the ground in amongst a battle without any powers to defend herself with, when you could have just sent her home where she could do the same thing but out of harm's way. Instead, this irresponsible fucking idiot flies away with Monica just before Dar-Ben meets face to face with a prince, who then tries to kill him after he refuses to kneel. I don't really know what the point in this was. Because Dar-Ben could have just went around the planet and, unbeknownst to anybody, stolen the water they came here for, rather than, I want him to kneel first. Even on Carol's side of things, I don't really see how you got the jump on her when all you and Monica did was fly away and then come back just in time to save the prince. Because generally getting the jump on somebody means you attack them before they know that you're there, but you've given yourself away and haven't even got a touch on Dar-Ben. This then leads into our fight where Carol can't just wipe the floor with her. Eventually Kamala uses her powers after being told not to, even though of course she's gonna use her powers. I guess Carol just expected her to die. And because of the switch, Dar-Ben realises that Kamala has the other quantum band, and before she's able to reach it, Carol tags back in. Then, as you would expect based on the intellect of this tangerine, Carol not only blasts energy directly at Darben's bangle, which as they learned makes Darben stronger, so maybe don't aim there, she also attempts to remove the bangle by force, making Darben even stronger, and you would think this would drain Carol's power. It doesn't. There's no downside for Carol whatsoever, so I don't really know why she acts as if it does when she's in contact with the bangle. Eventually, Darben has enough and brings down the hammer, which throws both Monica and Carol away, giving her the opportunity to suck the ocean dry. Monica and Kamala end up back at Carol's ship, while Carol herself flies around destroying Kree ships, because I guess they've given up on defeating Darben when she's right over there and could be easily stopped. But no, instead we get the absolute cringiest line throughout the entire movie when Carol makes it to the ship and Kamala, in the weirdest way possible, says,
"Oh, Captain, my Captain."
Carol then takes control of the ship when she already has flying capabilities herself and begins flying away from Darben for what seems like no other reason except if Carol isn't in the ship, then our team will get split up. It makes sense for Monica to get away from Darben with Kamala because she's after the bangle, but there's no reason for Carol to run away. So I'm just confused about what the fuck she's running away from when she could be a distraction for Darben, allowing the other two to flee. Missiles are then locked onto the ship, and rather than just go out and punch the missiles away, the moronicness of Carol strikes again when she seems to think she can outrun them. Eventually, after arguments about what they should do, at the last possible second, Kamala decides to pull a lever that takes them through a jump point, and completely contradicts how we've been told jump points work in the process. We were told jump points are a network of wormholes and they have fixed points throughout the universe, only to now show us Carol's ship going through a jump point just above the ocean where there shouldn't be. Because why would there be a jump point right within the atmosphere of the planet? Why would there be a jump point where it conveniently needs to be right before you get hit with the missiles? They've now made it seem like they have a hyperdrive when they explicitly told us it doesn't work that way. So now you've completely fucked that up, and is the exact reason I said don't explain the fucking jump points. But like any other piece of the world building in the Marvel universe, they just have to go and fuck with it, when you could have easily just left it at the jump points are how we travel the universe. Our team are then transported to a remote planet, which leads to some arguments and revelations. Carol annoyed that they've left Aladna to fend for itself, which, yeah. Carol could have just stayed behind and told Monica to escape with Kamala, but instead we had to witness the absurdities of what is essentially a god trying to dodge missiles in a ship, rather than destroy them, and while she's at it, destroy Darben. Kamala then gives her reason for abandoning Aladna, which makes sense because of the worry that Darben would get her hands on the bangle. At the same time, this would have all been avoided if you just sent the fucking 16-year-old home. The writers then try to justify why Carol didn't beat Darben by having Kamala say, if we weren't entangled, if we weren't here, then you could have beat her. They seem to think there was no obvious choice that would have resulted in victory. Which again, that entire sequence we just went over could have been solved straight away if Carol went solo to fight Darben. If only Carol uses her powers, then the entanglement isn't even a problem, so there's no real excuse for the outcome we got. Carol then goes on to reveal all, that of course being the genocide, which only makes her come off even worse and dumber than she already has. Saying that the Kree were ruled by an AI that led them into wars, and because she's as dumb as a bag of dicks, thought the only way to stop it was to destroy it, but she just made it worse. She then admits to being the reason for the Civil War, why they couldn't breathe, and how she got the name Annihilator. And the reason she never came back to see Monica was because she didn't want her to see that version of her. Which is still a terrible excuse considering what she done was on the other side of the galaxy, so how would Monica even know that version of you? Carol then says that she thought if she fixed it, she could come home.
Right.
It's been 30 years since you destroyed the Supreme Intelligence, and nothing has changed on Hala, because you haven't done shit to fix it. What you have done is brought an entire planet and the people to the brink of extinction, and then abandoned them. There's no excuse or amount of cope that's going to change that. The damage is done, and Captain Marvel is, and always now will be, a genocidal idiot. She's the reason why Hala was destroyed. All of the events that have played out through into the Civil War is because of her. But of course she just gets away with it, there are no consequences, and no acknowledgement of what this means. Even Monica doesn't acknowledge how big of a fuck up this is. Her response to this news is, we're family. And she never expected Carol to be the mighty Captain Marvel. What kind of response is that to, by the way, I'm the reason billions are dead? But yet again, all is forgiven and we're moving on to them trying to figure out where Dar-Ben is going next, with Carol realising that she's targeting the ones she cares about and stealing resources from every place I call home. A statement that completely destroys your villain by having them make choices that aren't consistent with what their goal is. I may have spoiled it already, but yes, Dar-Ben is another fucking idiot in this shit show. Dar-Ben wants to restore Hala to its former self and save its people. She's even stated that she's willing to die for her people. But then, because she also wants revenge against Carol for what she did, she decided to target planets that have a connection to Carol, places she would call home. And by Dar-Ben making that decision runs the risk of Carol knowing about the location she would steal resources from, leaving them in ruin. If Carol knows where you are, she'll stop you, resulting in your people and your planet dying. Something we know you don't want to happen, so then why would you not just target planets that Carol doesn't know about? You have an unlimited supply of planets to choose from. So even if you want revenge against Carol, why not deal with the resources you need to revitalize Hala and then deal with Carol? But we couldn't have Dar-Ben do that because that would make sense. Instead, we've ended up with another clown villain to add to our gallery of clown villains. Thanks, Marvel. We then cut over to our B-plot on the Saber space station, which, because of the unstable jump points, caused the station to go offline for some reason, which includes the space elevator and escape pods aside from 15. So now Fury needs to find a way to evacuate 350 personnel, so tells his underlings to fill the remaining pods with as many people as you can, and then figure out a plan B, because they've apparently got time for that. But luckily enough, Fury is about to have a pile of coincidences fall into his lap. A random fire starts with Kamala's family failing to put it out because they're on Saber for no reason at all. They're not being targeted, yet Fury brought them aboard. He then opens a cupboard for a fire extinguisher, only to then find multiple eggs starting to hatch. Throughout the film, they came across one egg and then found out there was others around the ship, which then leads us up to now. And these particular eggs are Flerken eggs. Goose, Carol's Flerken pet, has laid what seems to be 100 eggs. And for people that don't know, Flerkens don't eat people and kill them, instead it transports you to a pocket universe inside the Flerken. So you may have figured it out already, but Fury is going to use the fucking cats to evacuate all personnel by letting the Flerkens eat them and then put the cats into the escape pods. And for this to be the case, we had to have a long line of coincidences. Fury had to have taken Goose aboard Saber, Goose had to have been pregnant, lay at least 100 eggs and had to hatch right at the moment they needed them, giving Fury the chance to escape. If it wasn't for all this, they'd be stuck where they are, but everything just happened to fall perfectly into place. But now Fury has to convince everybody to let a Flerken eat them in the stupidest way possible. All the people were told, stop running and let the Flerkens eat you. Because people are going to listen to that in panic, aren't they? They're going to go, okay, I will get eaten by this thing, even though I'm under the impression I just die from it. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, clearly the right plan is, can everybody meet up in this specific place? And then Nick Fury explains to them, we're going to have to let these Flerkens eat us. Now, they don't kill us. What they do is they transport us to, even then it's like, I ain't fucking doing that. It's like, I'll just stay up here. What's going to happen? But you think you would do that so you can calm people down instead of going, everybody stop running and let the Flerkens eat you. It's like they're all panicking at the moment. They all think they're going to die. So what are you doing? Just try and do this in an orderly fashion. It's like you've got the time to go over the tannoid, meet in this place, and then tell them the plan. They don't even think of the risks involved with transporting people to Earth this way. First of all, you can't even be 100% sure everybody will actually survive being eaten. Secondly, what if the Flerkens just randomly decide to throw everybody up whilst you're in the escape pod? You'll all then be crushed to death. Which is something that does happen, it's just lucky they only throw up a couple of people. You're also expecting an alien species, putting aside the fact they've just been born, to just know what you want them to do. When what we've seen from Goose is it pretty much just does whatever the fuck it wants to do. But that's the plan they've come up with, mainly because Marvel wants to corner the crazy cat lady market. So while Fury gets everyone back to Earth, Monica figures out Dar-Ben wants to steal the Earth's sun, which gives our team of light-powered clowns their next location, where they do in fact find Dar-Ben sucking away the energy of the sun to Hala. Carol was the first to confront Dar-Ben for an exchange of generic hero versus villain dialogue. Carol explains that if she continues on this path, it'll be the end of the Kree and everything else, based on Monica said so because we need to make it seem as though we've got stakes. Of course, Dar-Ben ignores any of this advice and tries to go for Kamala's quantum band, only to end up being hit by her own hammer and pinned under rubble. She gives us some more generic villain dialogue, like telling Carol death follows her, which is accurate. Monica is then prompted to offer help on Carol's behalf and pulling more shit out of thin air, by coming to the conclusion that if Carol flies into Hala's sun, she'll be able to restart it. First of all, she can jumpstart a star, yet when it comes to Dar-Ben, struggles to just instantly demolish her.
That's bollocks.
No,
Go on.
Secondly, it's been 30 years and Carol hasn't ever done shit to fix Hala aside from claiming she has, and never once did she consider something as simple as this. Which, to be honest, I doubt she considered anything. So agreeing to restart Hala's sun from Monica's suggestion that she once again based on nothing except the sun's energy and Carol's energy, so just fly into the sun even though you just thought about it for 10 seconds. Carol then goes to help Dar-Ben from the ground, who then turns on Carol because of course she does. I don't know why Carol assumed all was now well. The people that are dead haven't miraculously resurrected themselves, so reviving the sun changes nothing. But Dar-Ben, now freed from the rubble, crushes Kamala under the hammer and rips the bangle from her, threatening to kill Kamala if anyone intervenes. Dar-Ben, finally getting what she wanted, puts on the second quantum band and dies.
What the fuck? What the fuck was that?
She just dies. She just explodes. It's lucky she didn't get the bangle earlier, or we would have hit the end credits an hour ago. This also explains why Dar-Ben seemingly gave up on chasing the bangle. Because if she desperately wanted it like she told us, she surely would have actually tried. It doesn't seem like she actually needed it because she got everything she wanted without it anyway. But instead we have this anticlimactic end for the villain, which means we now need to make it look like there's some type of climax. Just before Dar-Ben explodes, Carol manages to push her through the open jump point. The explosion then tears a hole in space-time, opening an entire new reality for some reason. Oh no, wait, I know the reason. For cameos, and that's the only reason for what's about to happen, through sheer stupidity. They have to stop what Monica calls, a self-propagating singularity with negative mass and non-Newtonian etymology.
What does that mean? I literally have no idea what that is supposed to mean.
And their plan to fix it once Monica pulls the solution from out of nowhere yet again and imposes rules that hold no weight or reason, is to reproduce the same amount of energy that was used to open it. Monica will absorb it, even though she told us at the start of the movie that was Captain Marvel's powers. So why doesn't she just do your job? Or is the reason you're gonna do it is because you're a more worthless character than Carol? Seems like it. Monica then imposes a rule on herself that when she goes to the tear and releases the energy to seal it up, she has to do it from the inside. Again, there is a reason for this, not a justified reason because we're given no reason in the first place, and there's nothing anywhere that says to achieve sealing up the hole, you must do it from the inside. The writers had Monica make it up for nothing more than a superficial key jangle. So Monica absorbs the energy, flies inside and seals it up, and as the hole begins to close, Carol desperately tries to reach Monica in time, forgetting she can travel at the speed of light. So again has no excuse for not reaching her in time, so Carol's reaction comes off more like this.
Stop, don't come back.
So now Monica is lost in a different universe and the Earth's sun is restored to its full power. Kamala returns to Earth herself, telling Fury about Monica and where Carol's gone, who we quickly cut over to so she can fulfill her promise to restart Hala's sun. The film seems to think this means she's redeemed herself and made up for the genocide? No, it doesn't. The film then continues to think all is well when we cut to Louisiana because Carol is moving into Monica's house with the help of Kamala. They both hop inside a plane on the lawn, with Carol realising she doesn't have the key because she's looking after it until Monica's back, not by popular demand. Kamala then says she misses her already and they work good together as a team because the film is all about teamwork, apparently. And working as a team has got Kamala thinking about putting a team together herself. So we cut over to a New York garage where she meets with Kate Bishop and directly rips off Fury's speech from Iron Man. But sure, go nuts, makes no difference really because nobody gives a shit about Ms. Marvel or Kate Bishop, and especially not Cassie fucking Lang. So Kate's agreement to join the Young Avengers means nothing because it's an agreement to a movie that's never gonna be made. But fuck it, throw it in anyway because it's no different than our post-credit scene, which is the sole reason for some of this fuckery, with tears in space-time and the appearance of another reality, and why Monica just had to seal up the hole from the inside. Who has now woken up to Kelsey Grammer's Beast, a Charles Xavier name drop, and Monica's mother as binary. Don't know who the fuck that is, and I really don't care. This is only here to say the X-Men are coming, please keep seeing our movies, which with the current state of Marvel, I think most people are going to pass on.
I've started to get this feeling. Everything's fucked.
But that finally brings us to the end of another abominable Marvel film, so I should probably come to some kind of conclusion. Which shouldn't take very long when considering how empty the film is to the point of being about nothing, and still it's completely fucking broken. With a plot filled with the usual contrivances and especially the over-reliance on the stupidity of its characters. If it wasn't for Carol's lack of intelligence, she wouldn't have destroyed an entire planet and genocided all of its people, giving Dar-Benn a reason to do what she does, which would remove the entire basis of the film. Although if Dar-Benn was smart enough, she would have taken resources without anybody knowing about it, which again would bring us to a dead end. At the start of the film, Dar-Benn finds a quantum band but can't find the other one, which only raises questions about how she found the first one. She only finds out Kamala, who made it into the film because of Carol and Monica's stupidity of touching mysterious purple space goo, which if they smartly sent in a probe, she would have been missing entirely. If it wasn't for that, Dar-Benn would have never realised Kamala has the other quantum band after inconveniently switching with Carol, who brought along a 16-year-old kid as if that was the only choice they had when they could have just sent her home, kept her safe, without the use of her powers so they wouldn't switch. Dar-Benn seemingly given up chase after the quantum band because otherwise we would have hit the credits 40 minutes in after she exploded. The only reason this happens at the end of the film is so it opens up another reality in which Monica imposes the rule of being stuck on the inside of the new reality, all in service of simple-minded cameos. Every time our characters are left without any leads to follow, they either come to conclusions based off no information at all, or come to it after making a stupid decision, or they're just conveniently told. The only reason Carol finds out about Dar-Benn being on Tarnax is because a Kree soldier accidentally tells her, after not once being threatened, that she can't stop Dar-Benn, she's already on Tarnax, forgetting the fact that now you've told her she can in fact stop her. Although, not really, because we have to avoid Carol instantly demolishing Dar-Benn when that's exactly what she could do. We're then relying on stupidity again with Carol trying to switch places with Kamala, goes straight to flying off to Tarnax when Kamala can't fly or breathe without oxygen. Meaning if you switch, the concept you've experienced and had explained to you, Kamala's dead. The reason for this retarded decision on Carol's part is so Kamala can remember a star map aboard Dar-Benn's ship that leads them to another fucking galaxy with billions of planets. Many of which contain water, meaning any one of them Dar-Benn could go to steal an ocean. It's incredibly hard to narrow down where she would go based on billions of planets. But it just so happens Dar-Benn is fucking stupid as well. Then we have a useless fucking B-plot, an addition which only makes the film worse, with coincidences on top of coincidences. Also, Fury and Kamala's family can get back to Earth. It adds nothing, so I don't know why the fuck it's here, aside from some sense of tension, which is all fabricated. There is no immediate danger, they just can't leave. Because the Saber space station is offline for some reason. Not really though, because some of the escape pods aren't offline, even though you told me they're offline. Or maybe the entire point of the B-plot is to garner interest from crazy fucking cat ladies. Other than that, it's absolutely worthless. And speaking of worthless, we then have our characters who range from completely useless to titanically fucking stupid. Nick Fury has quickly become one of the MCU's most inconsistent characters. We go from strategic badass, then to secret invasions I wanna die, to the Marvels, where he has no input aside from being goofy. Nothing seems to follow in from Secret Invasion. His Skrull wife is gone. He hasn't at all helped with building peace among Skrulls and Kree like he said he was. Instead, he's managing jump points. Secret Invasion honestly makes the film so much worse. Monica Rambeau is just as useless as Fury, bringing nothing to the table other than, Carol left me and I'm upset about it, I'm also gonna forgive her anyway. None of this is fleshed out, it comes up every now and then, there's no resolution at the end of the film. She's easily the most static character in the film, which is fine, except the writers seem to think she's went on an arc. When she hasn't, she's just boring as fuck, and some of her actions are already questionable from WandaVision. She let Wanda escape consequences, who then went on a murder spree, so that already makes Monica a fucking idiot. In the Marvels, she comes across narcissistic, seems to only think of herself because the writers still don't realise that little things tell us about their characters. Like when Carol tells Monica why she never came back to Earth, that people needed her, Monica's reply is, well, I needed you, when Monica has no context of what situation Carol was in. On Tarnak, she just stands by as Carol saves people. The only thing Monica provides is clunky exposition and solutions to problems she pulls out of her arse. We then have Ms. Marvel. I like the actress, she adds much needed charisma, she's able to deliver comedic lines well, but it all falls flat without any of the writing to back you up. There's no reason for her to be here except comedic relief. They had the chance to do something more with her, mainly realising there's more to being a superhero. It doesn't always go your way. Things of this nature they literally set up and just blow right past it. And again, the writers believe Ms. Marvel has gone on an arc, but the only thing she actually takes away from all of these events are, I gotta put a team together. She learns fuck all about being a superhero, which I suppose if you're hanging around buffoons like Captain Marvel, that's just par for the course. Especially with how they handle her in this film. They found a way to absolutely assassinate a nothing burger character, and the writers are oblivious to it. She lived on Hala for multiple years, she knew exactly how it operates, but because she's consistently stupid and doesn't think anything through, decided to destroy the Supreme Intelligence, which caused a civil war, which caused the sun to die, the oceans to dry, and the air to be polluted, killing billions. She has a bigger body count than any dictator ever to exist combined, so moving forward with this character, well, you can't. The writers clearly wanted to go the route of redemption, and they took it too far. She's now irredeemable. It's in the same vein as Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi. He redeems himself somewhat after taking down the Emperor, who somehow returned. But then you add in the context of the prequels, where we witness him executing children, which makes it a lot harder to consider him redeemed. What makes it worse with Carol is we're supposed to see her as a hero who then kills billions. They tell us she tried to fix it, she factually hasn't. They say she's upset about it, she isn't. She doesn't act like a person with regret or remorse when with all of what she's caused, she should be a broken person. For an example of how someone should behave with all of this on their conscience, the writers could have just watched fucking Angel. A vampire who's killed his friends, his family, thousands of countless people, only to then have his soul restored, giving him a conscience and reliving all of the horror he's done. He's a completely broken person because of it, filled with guilt until he eventually starts trying to make up for it, something he knows deep down he'll never truly be able to do, and still he sacrifices his own happiness multiple times, all in service of helping people. We even have another example in your own fucking universe with Civil War, where after the events in Sokovia, Tony Stark learns of civilians caught in the crossfire, something that is an unfortunate result. He then takes steps to avoid this with the Sokovia Accords. Captain Marvel, on the other hand, faces no consequences, grapples with no guilt, as though she doesn't have a care in the world, and the people around her treat it the same way. In short, Captain Marvel is damaged goods, she's utterly destroyed. I'm just baffled at how this got past the writers, producers, directors, and Kevin Feige. Not once did they say, you couldn't take out the fucking genocide, could you? No awareness whatsoever. Finally, that brings us to one of the worst villains of Phase 4 and 5, yep, we've got another clown. A lot of what I gotta say about Dar-Benn has been said that amounts to she's a fucking idiot. She wanted to steal an atmosphere, an ocean, and a sun for the sole reason of saving her people because she didn't have the sense to just fucking move. And in trying to save her people, she decided to risk their lives by stealing resources from planets Carol's connected to, meaning Carol would find out about it because Dar-Ben wants revenge. She's that fucking stupid, she never considered getting the resources you need from any random planet, and once she's saved her people, then she can go after Carol. You could literally have your cake and eat it too, instead you went out of your way to be stopped, and going against your entire, if I have to sacrifice myself for my people, so be it. So we're just left with an inconsistent, utterly stupid villain. And the same goes for Dar-Ben's homeworld she apparently wants to save. We're given no context whatsoever, so we're just supposed to believe a civil war somehow caused the sun to die within a time frame of 30 years, when we know it takes a few billion years for a star to die. So what the fuck could have possibly happened that makes any type of logical sense? The oceans have also completely dried up. How the fuck that happens when your sun is dead, I don't know. The only thing I can buy is the air was polluted, but even then, what, you must have been nuking the fuck out of each other, which makes me question, again, how there's any survivors. They should all be dead just from the death of the sun, which lowers the temperature by an inhospitable amount. Then with the oceans gone, would decimate all animal and plant life, so all these things just amount to everyone's dead. Even more so when you don't just leave the fucking planet when you have the ability to. I also find it strange that by Captain Marvel destroying the Supreme Intelligence, you would think that would bring the Kree together rather than entering a civil war, because what brainless idiot wants to rule over rubble? So I would assume they'd come together for a common goal of saving their people. But no, they just went straight to slaughtering each other. So the world building is just completely fucked. Thematically, it's no different. They have multiple options they could take, all of which get completely stepped over. The only thing you can actually take away from it is teamwork that is still non-existent and contradicted anyway, when in certain situations it would get a better result if you didn't work as a team. Especially when Carol has so much power that she should be able to instantly destroy Dar-Ben. But instead we're supposed to pretend like she can't and that the entanglement is getting in the way. My response to that is leave Monica and Kamala on the ship without the use of their powers, then you're free to use your powers without the risk of switching. I find it quite funny that you introduce the mechanic of switching, which continuously goes against any theme of teamwork you have in the film. It's obvious none of these ideas were thought through because that's how incompetent the writers are Marvel hires. In a nutshell, the Marvels is a soulless, dead-inside disaster, and I'm not surprised in the slightest with Marvel's ongoing track record of releasing nothing but shit since the start of Phase 4. Is it the worst Marvel film like many have claimed? No, but it is one of the worst. A statement I see myself repeating with each release because that's how bad it's been. So I look forward to never watching, thinking about, or remembering the Marvels ever again, which isn't exactly a hard thing to do. So I guess I'll see you on the next video, whatever or whenever that may be.